All right, hey, welcome back. Today we're going to focus on drawing number 39. Yeah, this one's pretty complicated. So, without any further ado, let's get started. So, I have my paper here. I have put a border. I put a nameplate on it. I am going to stick a Lucky L on it real quick, and it's going to be a super light Lucky L. So, I'm going to come over a ½ inch from my left border, ½ inch up from my nameplate. Okay, and again, super light because we're going to erase most of this. At some point in time, it's going to get erased. So you'll notice it's probably even lighter than usual. But I want to get started there, okay? So ½ inch over, ½ inch up. From this corner, I am going to put a 45-degree diagonal line. And the reason we're using a 45 is that's what we have. And it's very light. You'll see that. I'll darken that up if need be. But the first thing is, when we go to draw this object, you will see that everything is round. And what we really have to make space for is, you see that biggest round portion is 2 3/4 in diameter. So we really want to make sure that we leave a little bit of room for that. So we can't start our drawing here. We need to come up a little bit before we get started. So I've done a little pre-video math here, and I believe I've decided that if I come up 2½ inches, 1, 2½, and I'm going to put a line there, and that's going to be kind of my starting spot. So before I start drawing, I'm going to come across that mark with my triangle the opposite direction. I'm going to put an X there. That's my starting point, okay? So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to draw that outer circle that is 2 inches in diameter. That's going to be where I'm going to start with because it's the closest to me. It's the farthest forward. So we're going to start with that 2-inch circle. Pretty simply, I'm going to take my compass here and I'm going to set it to 1 inch because it's a 2-inch diameter and compass is measure in radius. So I'm going to set this to 1 inch. Again, don't use the scale that is printed on these. They're horrible. Loosen them up just a little bit. Make sure you have a good sharp pencil. Adjust it to half of your diameter, which is 1 inch. And make sure you take a little time doing this and get it as accurate as you can. These are great compasses for writing on wood and stuff like that. They're not great for drafting, but they work pretty well. So I'm going to come to my my intersection, my cross there, and I am going to draw my first circle. And I'm going to go a little darker than I usually would because it's really hard to come back and make things, reset the compasses and get them exact. So I'm going to make that just a little darker than usual. Now I'm going to make that round thing 3D. So I'm going to slide back diagonally, and according to the drawing here, it is 1 inch back, which is really hard to see. If you look kind of up, see where it says equally spaced, right underneath the A, drop down about 1.5 inches, and you'll see the 1 there. So I need to measure back 1 inch and draw the back circle to make it three-dimensional. But look at this, I don't even need to measure. If this is set to 1 inch and I just move my stabby point to where the edge of that circle is, this too should generate a 2-inch diameter circle, 1 inch back, okay? Now, the one thing I am going to do is I'm going to take my pencil, I'm going to put a little mark there because that is now where I'm creating the surface of the big wheel. Because remember, this back part sits on that bigger metal circle. And so I want to put a mark there so I can remember it. So I put a little dot there, and that seems to be enough to usually remind me. And now I'm going to come in and I'm going to take my triangle across my 2 tangents, or my 2 farthest pieces of my arches there, and they should line up. They should be pretty close to perfecto if I've done this correctly. And then any tails that overhang where I went more than I should have, I'm going to delete those and just kind of clean that up while I'm in there, okay? So now I have a circle that is 3D going back 1 inch. Yes, I know there's a circle that needs to be cut out of here, and I'll get to that. But I wanted to draw both of these while the compass was already set to the same setting because I know they're the same diameter, okay? All right, so now this is now kind of the new center of my world for drawing the rest of that big stuff. So I'm going to take the compass and I'm going to set it to, let's look around here. It looks like 4 3/4. Now I got to cut that measurement in half, so half of 4 3/4 is 2 3/8. So again, I'm going to set this as close to accurate as I can get to 2 3/8. Tighten her up a little bit. I'm going to stick the stabby part right here on my dot. And I'm going to come in. Now I estimated that I needed to be 2.5 inches away for my big circle to touch my Lucky L, and I am super close. I'm within about a 1/16 of an inch on this one, and maybe just off just a tiny bit, which tells me something's not quite right, but pretty close. And so we're going to go with it because we're going to come back and erase this anyway, but it gives us the idea that where it's basically starting. Now, if this was the center of that circle, and I need to make that one 3D, and it too, this goes back an inch, this goes back an inch. Watch how cool this is. If this was where I drew the big wheel from, and I measure back 1 inch, it's going to be right here on this intersection. Okay. And you're going to notice something pretty quickly. Mine is going to look a little different than the one that we're drawing, because the one that we're drawing is missing a quarter of it, has been cut out of there, correct? And that is so you can see what the inside shape is. But I can tell you, for me, it is extremely difficult for me to cut that out as I draw. So what I often tend to do is I will draw the entire object and then come back and cut it out. And that seems to work really, really well for the way I draw. If your brain will allow you to cut that as you go, knock yourself out. But for me, I find it just much easier to do it this way. Same thing on these two edges of the circle, triangle and tangents, because we want to have that. And again, there's just a little tiny line in there that I'm going to take out. And then on the top, same thing. My head might pop into view here. And there's just a little itsy bitsy tiny line there that I'm going to take out. All right. Hey, so look at that. We have the rough shape of this thing. This might be a good time to go back and take that circle out. And so that circle is 1 1/4 diameter. So half of 1 1/4 would be 5/8. And so I could use a circle template. I have a circle template sitting right here. I could use a circle template, but since you do not have a circle template if you're doing this at home, I'm going to try to do what you guys are doing at home. So I'm going to go 5/8. Is that what I said? 5/8. And I'll try to do what you guys are doing at home so that we can all expect the same quality of drawing. That's really close. So we're going to call that 5/8. We're going to come back to my summer. And again, the smaller the circle gets, the more I lean the pencil over. And I like to hold the pencil down here when I draw, not up here. I feel they put this little ball in there so you can spin it around. That's great if you're drawing a huge circle. When you're drawing a small circle, you have a lot more control if you hold it nice and close. And also, when I draw this way, I have to use my other hand. And that is so much easier to do. And again, I start at an angle, just spin around, okay? Not perfect. Got a little mess there. I'll clean that up. We don't want that. That's going to get cut out anyway, so I'm not going to get too carried away with it. And voila. I have this circle. I have that barrel. I have the big circle. We're in pretty good shape here. Hey, we should probably mark where those 4 little circles go, right? Now, remember when I said this is the center of the big circle, right where my dot is? So watch what I'm going to do here. I'm going to come in and put my T-square and triangle together, and I'm going to set my triangle right on the center mark, and then I'm going to come up here and put a light line here, a light line here, and I'm going to do the same thing here. A light line here, and a light line here, okay? And what that now tells me is where those 4 circles are going to be placed. I need to now calculate how far out they are. And let me see if I can find something that tells me, oh, look at that. It tells me from center to center of circle, it's 3.5 inches. So if I set my compass to half of that right here, I can spin my compass around, and where my compass goes across those 4 marks, that tells me where I'm going to draw those little circles. So half of 3.5, well, let's see, half of 3 is 1.5. Half of a half is a quarter. So 1 3/4 should be our measurement. So I'm going to take my pencil here and set it to 1 3/4. Okay. And again, we want to be super picky about getting that exact. So I got this set to 1 3/4. I'm going to put the stabby point back on my dot, and I'm just going to put a light line here, a light line here, a light line here, and a light line here. Okay? And so that's going to look a little different, huh? And I know they're curved, but that won't matter because all I need to know is where those two lines intersect. That's where I'm going to put the point of my compass to draw those little circles. So those little circles, let's see, it says 0.312 diameter. And if I remember correctly, when we looked this up, I think we came out with 5/16 was the diameter that we used, was the closest thing we had in a compass. Um, and so we're going to use 5/16. Now, that is a teeny, teeny, tiny circle to be drawn with a compass, but we're going to try it, okay? And I will tell you, 5/16 is awful close. Boy, it's almost exactly the diameter of that eraser. So it's going to be a teeny tiny circle. Um, it's really small. So 5/16 diameter. Ooh, I don't know that I can do that with a compass because I'd still have to cut that in half, right? So 2.5/16. I'm going to cheat and use my circle template here, and then I'm going to have you do the best you can do with what you got for a compass. But I want you to be able to see this. So I'm gonna cheat and use my sheet here. Okay, so I'm gonna flip that over. There is 4 black marks on my circle template. So if I put one of the black lines on my 4 crosses, circle it nice and dark, slide it up here and do this one. Okay, and then we're gonna do one here. And then here, and this one might actually get cut off by my, nope, I think we're going to clear it. Sometimes I worry about this cutting off part of that circle, and if it does, it does. You just don't draw over it and call it good. So I put in my 4 circles there. We're in pretty good shape. Now it's time, let's cut this thing up a little bit, okay? And cutting this is really simple. Watch this. I'm going to come from my center here, and I'm going to come from the center straight across this set of circles. See that line? Straight across. Now I'm going to put my triangle on that edge and go up to the next line diagonally to 45. And then if I'd done this correctly, that should cut right halfway across. Oops, lost my lead. That should cut halfway across that circle exactly. And then we're going to do the diagonal line here. Okay. I'm going to darken that up a little bit so you can see it on camera. Okay. So that's a cut line. And we're going to rotate our triangle around. And again, I'm going to go to the dead center of my cross. And we're going to go up through that first cut, that first line. 45 this thing. And then this should go right dead center across the middle of that circle if I get it right. And then a diagonal line that goes there. Okay. Those are my cut lines. So now this is where I'd grab my big white eraser and do some erasing. Of course, I don't know where my big white eraser is. So I'm just going to use the one that's on the back of my pencil, which tends to work for me because I break lead so quickly in these cheap pencils that about the time the eraser's gone, I'm out of lead anyway. And these are disposable mechanical pencils. And so I guess it was meant to be that way for me. You guys probably don't break lead as much. And so you probably want to keep your big white eraser handy. And so I'm just going to erase everything between those lines, gets erased out of there. Okay. And this one, more than any of the others, those pencil marks are going to show. So just erase it the absolute best you can. Okay. And we'll darken everything else up the best we can. And we're just going to call it good. Okay. Not much we can do about it. All right. And you can see there's all kinds of smears on here. I'm going to get rid of what I'm doing now is I'm getting rid of my Lucky L that I don't need. Okay, and again, if I had a big white eraser, this would be really handy to use, and it would certainly do a better job than this little tiny eraser, but it is what it is. Okay, hey, these two half circles, see that line going through the middle? The middle of that dark line has to go too, and if I wasn't trying to show it on camera when I would have drawn it, I would have just picked up my pencil across the middle of those and save myself a little bit of headaches, but I wanted you to be able to see exactly what I've done. All right, now see this measurement? That is the thickness of this whole thing. You can calculate that, but we also know that this thickness, so I'm just going to do a line here, and I'm going to do a line here, okay? And then I'm going to do a little measuring, see what the distance is, and boy, it sure looks like it's 3/8. So if I come back on this line, 3/8, 1, 2, 3, I'm going to put a little mark there. That's going to tell me the thickness of all this good stuff going on. And then the same thing here. I'm going to go, I need to come out 3/8. I know you're going, I don't get this. Give me just a second. It will all kind of clear itself up. And then I'm going to put a line here. Okay. So now you should be seeing that surface, that edge, if you will. Okay. Now notice this isn't correct, is it? Because the surface doesn't continue on through there. So if I take my triangle on each edge of my circle, and I would put the measurements up for you, except for at this point, I think it's more important for you to see what I'm doing rather than the measurements that are on the paper. And this view gives you a little better view, so I'm going to erase that. Now I got to take my circle template and bring it back in. Circle template, 5/16. Let me find it here. 5/16. Okay, and so what I'm going to do is I'm going to have to spin this around a little bit. I'm going to follow my diagonal line. And usually what I do is I put this on a triangle and slide my triangle and my 5/16 circle. Let me see if I have enough room in here for it. I don't know if I do. Maybe. It'll slide up underneath my computer. And I go up to that back corner. I'm just going to draw a little arc right there. Well, yeah, that's done. Okay. And so that is the surface of that edge. And we're going to do the same thing. This is 3/8. This is 3/8. That comes down 3/8. Makes it pretty straightforward, pretty easy. And it should match, should be nice and clean. So if I come down 3/8, and let's see here, I need to go, let's start at the top here. Why not, right? What is it? So I need to come exactly 3, 1, 2, 3/8 is right there. So that tells me where this diagonal line is going to come in. And again, if I'm sticking my head under the camera, I'm sorry. Not the plan. And then I'm going to come 3/8 back from this surface. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. And then I can just connect these two lines and I should be in like Flint. Okay. And then I'm going to erase this little piece here where they overlap a little. Same thing. Got to do my diagonal lines here and here. Erase that back arch. And again, we're going to try to see if we can get our 5/16 circle to sit on my T-square and clear the computer. And yeah, see, this is the problem. I don't have a lot of space here. So this one, because I don't have enough space because the laptop that's recording the video is kind of in the way and I don't have any longer cables. Let me see if I flip it over, if I can make this work. I'm trying to do something creative here. I would typically say, if you're drafting, don't have a computer sitting right on top of the paper you're working on. And so I'm going to come to right there. And we're just going to do a little radius like that. And that takes care of our drawing. Now, one thing that you're going to notice is in the drawing here, see where the cut is, the surface is, these surfaces, there's a diagonal line that runs across there. Those diagonal lines, to get them exactly perfect and get them all put in, take forever. So I don't want you spending a half hour drawing diagonal lines to show that something was cut. The other way we can do this is we're going to come in here really lightly and we're going to shade just where the cut has been made, okay? And that shade will indicate that something happened. And again, some people prefer to shade it, some people prefer to do the diagonal lines. Either one is perfectly acceptable. What I don't want is super dark shading that is then going to smear all over your drawing when you go to put your dimensions on. That would be no good. So I'm just going to take a minute here, and you guys might want to either pause the video or speed through this, or just let it play while you get caught up on your drawing. And I'm just going to shade this in a little bit. And again, this will take me, I don't know, a minute to do. And so just take your time, but not super dark, because if it's super dark, when you go to put your measurements on, it's going to smear all over the place. And making it dark doesn't make it better. I think the lighter the shading is, as long as it's a consistent shade, it looks pretty good. And so I think that's a good way to show that something's been cut out of there. Okay. Um, and I think it's a whole lot easier than doing it by measuring out every 1/8 inch and doing a diagonal line on that surface. It's probably be easier with a wooden pencil than a mechanical pencil, but that's okay. I'm just going to take my time here, get this all shaded nicely so it looks decent. So this has been the first freehand drawing I will let you do on any of these drafts, is that shading and arrowheads. That's it. Everything else is done with a tool, isn't it? Oh, and numbers. You can write numbers, and that's perfectly acceptable as well. All right. Hey, we're getting dangerously close here to being ready to put some measurements on this thing. And measurements are kind of a pain on this one. I'll tell you, there is a ton of them. What I will tell you is you don't have to do it the same way they did. You can do the measurements the way you want, as long as they represent all the required information, okay? So for example, let me show what it looks like here. You'll notice they've put a bunch of those measurements up in that cutaway area. What I like to do is drag them out here. So maybe I'm going to come out here and say, oh, from the bottom of this circle. Now notice my dimension lines are not going to actually touch my object. Okay, I just bring them close. And then I can put dimensions way out here and work our way back. So I want the biggest set of dimensions out here, and that's the 4 and what is that, 4 3/4. So if I come out here, I can say, all right, way out here, we're going to tell you that from the top of this circle to the bottom of this circle is 4 and is it 3/4? Oh, yeah, 4 3/4 inch. And then I'm going to put a circle with a diagonal line through it. That means diameter. Or I could put DIA with a period next to it. Either one of those is perfectly acceptable. Don't forget your arrowheads. Okay, so now I'm telling you that big circle has a diameter of 4 3/4. I can come in and tell you the next set of circles, the inner diameter, which is 4.5. I can come in and say from here, and then I can just end it down in here somewhere, or I could come back up here. What would be the difference of a 1/4 inch, and put a measurement in here? So right about there, and then from the inside of that, another 1/4 inch. So I'm going to come down a 1/4. Okay, and I can say from the inside to here to there is 4 1/4. Let me flip this over. Those of you that know me know that I don't like to use my triangle on that one side because it has a little nick in it. So this is 4 1/4 inch diameter. And again, my arrowhead goes here and here. The next one I'm going to do is I'm going to tell you from the center of this circle to the center of this circle from there to there is 3.5 inch diameter, and that's for so we know where those little circles sit. Okay, and so see how I've just laid those out there, and that's perfectly acceptable. I hate to make this thing more complicated than it really is, and sometimes we're pretty good about doing that. I'm going to come in here. I'm going to put a line here that goes from here up to there, and one from here up to here. I'm going to rotate my triangle the other way, and I'm going to tell you that that is 1 inch, and give you a little arrowhead on each end. Okay, so that tells you that one's 1 inch. I could do the exact same thing there to tell you that that's 1 inch. So I could come from this corner up to there, and this corner up to there. I'm going to be really close to the border, huh? That's okay. Just as long as we keep everything inside the border, we're good. 1 inch, units, arrowhead here, arrowhead here. I am going to erase that extension line so that there's an 1/8 inch of space between the border. Okay, there we go. So I got 1 inch, 1 inch. I got all these measurements. Oh, I need to tell you the diameter of these circles still, the diameter of this circle, and the diameter of that circle. So let's see. What if I came and said, we're going to go right out here and right out here. We just got to clear that circle enough to be able to tell you that that is 2 inches. Oh, I should have moved my line out farther. See how it's so close that by the time I put diameter, it's going to be right up on my circle. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'm going to scoot this out. Okay. Yeah, more erasing. The sooner you get used to erasing, the sooner you'll see your grade improve, because you'll be like, oh, if I just do this right, it's worth more points than if I kind of just make it close. You know what I mean? So do it the right way. Save yourself some headaches. You really don't want me to say, hey, go fix this. Right? That's kind of a bummer. All right, that looks better. 2 inch diameter. I still need to tell you that that's 1 inch. I think I'm just going to go right across the center of it. What do you think of this idea? And I just lost my lead again. See what I mean about my eraser wearing out? I'm going to do here and here. And then I'm just going to tell you that that is 1 1/4 inch diameter. And then I'm going to give you an arrowhead on each end. And hey, I think, we got to tell you those. Let me zoom in a little bit so you can see it. I need to tell you the size of those circles, huh? And so I think what I can do is we can do a couple different things here. I think I'm just going to take my triangle at a random angle, okay? And I'm going to come up here and put an arrowhead on this end. And then I'm going to put a very, very short horizontal line up there. And then I'm going to write up here 4 times 5/16 of an inch diameter. Okay? And that should do the trick. Hey, number 39. I think it looks pretty good. Yeah, I think we're there. Hey, thanks for joining me today for number 39. Hope that helped clear that up. Hopefully that makes it make a little more sense. It's a tough one. Take your time. The first time I drew this, I had to draw it 3 times. So be patient. Do a good job. Thanks for watching. Hope this helped. See you on the next one.